Hey, how's it going, guys? Today, I'm going to give an overview of what I think is the most easily maintained year-round diet that I wish I would have started 10 years ago. For the longest time, I never did a specific fat loss or muscle gain period, and I was always just kind of, average. Now that I've started using this method, I look lean when I want to, I can still build muscle when I want to, while still enjoying life, being able to eat good foods and be happy. So now, keep in mind this advice is primarily for the 90 to 95% of those gym goers who are just trying to look good and be healthy. In no way is this advice on prepping for a bodybuilding show or maxing out your strength for a meet or a competition, anything like that. It's just kind of a method that I've found that's really reasonable, easy to follow, honestly year round, and won't really burn you out in either the short term or the long term, which makes it kind of easy to stay how you want to look throughout the year. So let's get into it. Let me start with a few caveats to this diet plan. I know a lot of people hate hearing this, but probably close to 75% of the time, you're going to need to track your calories, both intake and expenditure. It's honestly a necessary evil that you have to do it on some level if you truly want to make a change for either losing weight or gaining muscle. It's unfortunately something you have to do. The good thing is, once you get a good hold of kind of your daily foods that you typically have, become a lot more familiar with your caloric composition of the foods that you're eating, specific calorie tracking will probably drop to maybe like 50% of the year once you kind of get into the groove of this. Plus, there's tons of good, I don't know, they got crazy apps now to where you can just take pictures of your food and it's pretty darn accurate to how many calories it has in it, and then pick one of the thousands of smartwatches out there just to kind of track your daily steps so that it's going to make calorie tracking, maintenance surplus a lot easier down the road. So I really want to throw this disclaimer in there because not a lot of people are really aware of this, but the FDA allows plus or minus 20% error on the nutrition labels that you see for food. So I'm going to say that again, plus or minus 20%. That's a huge amount. So don't really lose your mind in the calorie counting, being obsessive. If it's 100 calories off, at the end of the day, a 2,000 calorie tracking day, with that error margin, you could be at either 2,400 or 1,600 calories, but this is where frequent weight tracking, looking in the mirror, liking how you look, kind of becomes critical to this plan. You'll be able to start to tell if you're constantly high or constantly low on these calorie counts. No one's really going to lose or gain weight in a straight line. It's going to look very noisy, like the trend line you see here, which is actually my last calorie deficit cycle, but overall you can kind of see which way the weight is trending. So try your best to average the weights throughout the week as you're filling out this template or any other app that you may be using to track your weight, and make sure you're weighing yourself around the same time each day. I personally choose to do it just before bed. I suggest either first thing in the morning or just before you go to bed. It's kind of an easy way to ensure that you're doing it every day, but make sure you're doing it at the same time because, I got fluctuations of 10 pounds between weighing myself in the morning and at night, and you don't want that to start to affect the data that you're getting when you're going through some of these diet cycles that you're going to have. So in the beginning, this is not going to be an exact science. You really need to find that fine line of holding yourself accountable, but not becoming obsessive over every tiny calorie and every pound that you see on the scale. Since it's impossible to even hone in on the sub 50 calories with a lot of the errors that they have on nutrition labels. Honestly, unless you've got a calorimeter at home and you're self-testing every single food you eat, but no one's going to do that. Don't waste the time to do it, and nor would I advise wasting your time on doing something like that. So with that being said, all those caveats, let's actually get into how I'd like to structure this plan and what I think is going to work best for you. So for this diet plan, we're going to break this down on a weekly basis with Sunday as our starting point, just to make it easy to align with the calendar when you're entering in these dates. To make this simple diet version, every cycle is going to be defined from a different group of 4 categories. We've got deficit, surplus, maintenance, and a reset period, where maintenance is staying within plus or minus 100 calories intake versus what your daily expenditure is. Deficit's going to be around 500 calories lower than your daily burn. Surplus can be about 500 calories above what your daily burn is going to be. So from my past experience, far exceeding this plus or minus 500 calorie surplus or deficit offers minimal benefits for muscle building or fat loss, but leads to greater fat gain and more muscle loss respectively. So really try to stick around this 1 pound gain or loss per week. So finally, the reset period is obviously everyone's favorite period, where you don't track any foods, you kind of enjoy your life, enjoy the carefree dieting period, and just it's kind of an overall mental reset. So especially after a good amount of time throughout the year, you're going to be tracking calories, your weight progress. It can get a little exhausting over time, and every once in a while you got to eat those donuts, you got to eat those food that you enjoy, break the diet so you can just kind of keep your sanity and keep this going throughout the year. I always find doing a reset a month or so before I hop back on a deficit diet just kind of recharges my motivation and drives me to get back on track with my diet. And I honestly think it's a necessity to making sure you have a diet plan that's going to keep you healthy in the long term, not something that you kind of crash course in the short term. Now in this video, we're not going to focus explicitly on any micro or macronutrient tracking or structure. Otherwise, this video is going to be over an hour long. But I will preface this entire plan with make sure you are focusing on protein intake, especially during your calorie deficit period, since we want to ensure our body is targeting fat to compensate for your overall energy deficit. We don't want the body to remove muscle in order to supplement this deficit. So this number is always debated. Anyone's going to give you their specific opinion that they think it is. I would highly suggest always aiming for at least 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight for any phase that you're on this diet, but specifically when in a calorie deficit, really try to hit that target just as your minimum protein intake. All right, let's finally actually get to how this diet's going to be structured and the timing of it. My suggestion on formatting or planning for your diet schedule according to this concept is finding the time period that you want to look your absolute best, whether that's during the summer for going to the beach, a wedding, photo shoot, you're going on vacation, you're going to be taking pictures, any specific date, whatever that is, decide that first day and then work backwards from there. So for this example, and for me personally, I just want to look good during the summer. I don't know, beach and pool season. I want to feel good taking my shirt off, know that I'm looking good whenever I need to. So I'm going to pick the first week of June as my target date. Then from that date, you're going to go back 3 weeks, and that will be the end of your calorie deficit or your cutting cycle. The reason for that is so many people will finish their cut like the week before that they want to look their best, but you're going to look a little depleted. Your muscle size is going to be down. You won't look very full. You're going to be super low energy. And if you're not super lean, you're just not going to look your absolute best. So instead, you kind of want a 3-week period back on maintenance. Let your body get back to a regular amount of calorie intake. If you are lifting consistently, you will see that after 3 weeks of regular eating, you're just going to look so lean, jacked, extra vascular. Just
look how vascular I am, Brian.
The best you're going to look all year. I hear time and time again that people are a little disappointed in how they look at the end of a cut. You talk to them 3 weeks later and they just love the way they look. So for me, I'm going to choose first week of June that I'd like to look my best, which would be my 3rd maintenance week. Back that up an additional 2 weeks. That's going to be the end of our deficit. Now, standard span for a deficit or a cut, we like to baseline 12 weeks or just under 3 months. Since we're targeting a 500 calorie deficit per day, there are 3,500 calories in a pound of pure fat. So mathematically, this is literally just calories in, calories out. You should see about a 12-pound loss during that deficit time period, around the majority of all of that being fat, if not all of it, is going to be fat loss, especially if you are consistently weight training. So some methods of fasting make this a little easier, whether it's intermittent or you're doing, I don't know, multi-day fast. There are tons of good techniques out there that I'll be covering in upcoming videos, but you can try and be a bit more aggressive on that calorie deficit if you're trying to lose more weight. But I would suggest doing another small mini cut throughout the year and doing some maintenance minus periods, which is a little bit more in depth, but as opposed to a longer duration deficit or a higher intensity deficit, only because it's hard to maintain that both physically and mentally, really. And countless studies have showed that how frequently crash course dieting results in immediately gaining that weight back. just from the fatigue of dieting, the goal of this is to create a plan that you can follow as a baseline, easily track with it for the rest of your life, and still maximize the aesthetics when you need to, and not completely sacrificing all of your all your muscle growth and strength gains. Now, if you are grossly overweight, there are adjustments that can be made, but this general plan is primarily geared towards the average individual. It will still work for anyone trying to lose a ton of weight, but just like the time it took to accumulate that fat in order to lose it for good and not have a high chance of relapsing and it coming back, it's going to take a bit of time to lose it in the right way. Keep in mind, again, it's very important to prioritize protein intake during this period. You're going to feel a little fatigued, you're going to have less energy, your strength numbers are going to go down on your big compound lifts. Don't let that discourage you. It's normal, and it has to happen when your body adjusts for losing this additional mass and having a constant energy deficit. After that, we're now going to transition into the maintenance phase, where you're going to try to maintain an intake within plus or minus 100 calories of what you burn throughout the day for about the next 4 months or so. For this baseline plan, obviously you can modify it however you need, but this is just the most simplified method of it that I think is the easiest to follow. So no crazy starving yourself or excessive binge eating. Stay right in the middle, right around your maintenance. And in 2 to 3 weeks of switching back to your maintenance diet, your muscles are going to fill out, strength is going to come back, and you're going to love the way you look.
I guarantee it.
If you feel like you may be getting a little softer or have another big event that you really want to look good for that's coming up, you just want to look your best during this maintenance period, maybe throw in a small mini cut of 2 or 3 weeks, a couple weeks before that event, as opposed to prolonging your previous deficit. But as a whole, this is a nice time to really coast on maintenance throughout the summer, still allowing you to have some good meals here and there while not killing yourself. And this is the point that hopefully you've got a pretty set diet generally outlined, where you're eating close to the same thing 4 to 5 days a week, and there's not a huge need for daily calorie tracking, and you just get into that nice rhythmic maintenance mode and keeping an awesome physique in the process, where you don't kind of have the mental fatigue of having to track every little calorie and having to weigh yourself every single day. But keep in mind, it is still important. Weigh yourself at least once a week just to make sure that your weight's not creeping up or creeping down, because this is the point where you still want to be lifting regularly, gain muscle where you can, but not adding on a bunch of fat. Now, after this maintenance period, here comes the fun part, which is a good portion of the year. The weather's starting to cool down a bit. Now we can have a little fun, get more lax with our diet tracking during the end of the year. So you can see here, starting in October, I switch over to a surplus of averaging 500 calories over daily burned for about 10 weeks, and feel free to increase this time if you're intently focused on building some good muscle mass. This is a great time to focus on high intensity training and trying to put on some great lean muscle mass and really upping those strength numbers. If you're not too keen on building muscle and strength, you may not necessarily need this period and can stay on maintenance, or you may even be ready for a small reset around this time. But for my preference, what I suggest to everyone else, use this time to build some good muscles so you can show off your hard work the following summer when you do your next deficit. The timing works out perfect over the holidays too. You're enjoying life, spending time with family, Thanksgiving, Halloween, Christmas, all coming through, all the fun food holidays. You can just relax and really enjoy yourself with around a 3,500 surplus allowance over an entire week. You don't have to be that person turning down all the good food and killing the vibe with, I'm on a diet, I don't want that good food. You don't have to do that. You can relax and enjoy time with your family and friends. Even if you're doing a small fast for a few days during a surplus, that means some days you can have 3,000 to 4,000 calories if you like, but we always want to maintain the good 80-20 rule. 80% of this food you want to be healthy to semi-healthy food. And sometimes this can get a bit tough to keep a lean bulk on healthy foods, but I would highly suggest this method if you're looking to put on quality muscle mass. You don't necessarily want that 3,500 calorie surplus to be all ice cream, cake, cookies, and donuts as much as we want it to be, but enjoy your life around this time. Have some fun with your training. You'll see your energy just skyrocket, strength's going through the roof after being on maintenance for 4 to 5 months. Now all of a sudden you're on a surplus. You're going to feel good during training. There isn't a set number of calories needed to build 1 pound of pure muscle, so it's a little bit different than losing fat on the specific math of it, but you should start seeing some consistent weight gain, and why it's still important to at least weigh yourself once a week during all periods. In conjunction with your hard training, you should be putting on some good muscle mass. The only way to guarantee that you are building muscle is to ensure that you are in some form of a calorie surplus. So I think it's a really crucial time of year that I would try to take full advantage of. One of the biggest myths that I hear in a bulk all the time is you're turning your fat into muscle. This is just wrong, completely false, and the two processes are just completely independent in your body, two completely different types of tissues. Anyone who tells you this is not someone you should be listening to advice from, sorry to say. And if it happens to be your trainer, fire your trainer and get a new one, please, because they have no idea what they're talking about. Now we keep enjoying the fun part that comes towards the end of the year, something that I always look forward to every year. I always like to put my reset period right around Christmas. Again, you've been on a surplus. Body's getting a little softer than it was in the summer, but it doesn't matter. Everyone's in jackets, hoodies. You're covering up, cultivating mass.
Hey, I'm cultivating mass.
And you can just relax from the time off at work, enjoy life. Let's face it, it's not the greatest coping mechanism in the world, but most people use food to cope with stress and bring a little happiness. Like I know I do at times. I know I feel like a happy little kid when I'm sitting on the couch having some sidecar donuts or pizza, man. Oh, it's the best. This is the time to do that and kind of clear that mental fatigue that you've had. You need some time period of this to really just reset and be ready before your next cycle. Within reason, of course. Even though you're not tracking, still stay somewhat active and don't be hitting like a 10,000 calorie surplus in a week or anything crazy and undoing a lot of what you've done in the past. I also really like the strategic timing of this because you will transition back to a maintenance diet the second or third week of January if you follow this track. So according to this plan, right when all the New Year's resolutions, trying to be a better person, personal development, betterment, all that BS kind of stuff, people generally have a greater sense of motivation. Or if your reset diet went a little too well, you've got some shame and guilt of the extra weight that you put on, and you're looking to get rid of it. So sometimes it's one or the other, but it's all good. This is a great time to kind of reset and start over at the beginning of the year. One of the most important aspects to this diet and any structured diet plan really is ensuring that you try and limit ever going straight from a surplus to a deficit or vice versa. Always try to keep a maintenance period in between the two phases or the two cycles for at least a few weeks to allow your body time to adjust and acclimate, and instead of shocking it with not enough energy and then straight back to too much energy. It can tend to lead to a little bit more fat gaining from the excess calories as opposed to gaining the muscle, and it can also lead to a loss of muscle going straight into a calorie deficit instead of your body burning fat, which is the preference. Same thing as usual, everything in moderation. A reset period is not an excuse to be in a 10,000 calorie weekly surplus. Not the point of it. The point is to put away all the tracking devices. Don't care about steps. Don't care about my calorie counting apps. I'm not doing anything. Use your best judgment. I'm trying to stick to 80-20 rule, but have some more junk food than usual. Just drop the calorie tracking. You'll see it's kind of nice to be a little free from it. After a week or two, you generally kind of miss it, to be honest. You get addicted to the data and the progress, and you just have this new motivation to start your cycle over again at the new year and see those results and hard work come through. And this will just guarantee the longevity of sticking to a great diet that makes you look great, you stay healthy, and you keep your sanity. I personally have been following this diet plan the last few years, and both muscle gaining as well as looking good when I want to, staying lean. I've stayed leaner throughout the year, and honestly, I've been happier, and this has been the easiest diet that I've ever really had to follow. So I really hope it ends up the same for you guys, because I've done a lot of different diets. People love sticking to specific, keto diets or a crash course diet or there are so many things out there that it's really hard to see a lot of people not stick to it throughout the year. This is something that the last 3 years I've kept around the same cycle. It's so easy to stick to, and you still get to enjoy the holidays. You still get to enjoy your favorite foods, still get to build some really good muscle, still get to look lean when you need to take your shirt off or look good at the beach or some kind of vacation. So It's always nice to have a good time of the year to look forward to when you have that surplus and that reset. It's kind of a light at the end of the tunnel. It makes the entire diet a little bit more palatable and easy to handle throughout the year. So that's one of the main reasons I think this is one of the most perfect diet formats as opposed to the cheat meal or cheat day diets that I see a lot of people doing. So I so often see people will be healthy an entire week, and I'm used to be guilty of this, then have a cheat meal on the weekends or a cheat day sometimes. They put themselves in a 3,000 or 4,000 calorie surplus in one day. So now you've completely erased whatever fat loss progress you made in the last week, or even added additional fat, but you were in a deficit the rest of the week. So now you haven't even really built any new or additional quality muscle. So now you've just added fat to your body composition, no muscle, and it's a never-ending cycle of just mediocre looks and performance and not feeling healthy. And this is the worst mode to be in when trying to lose weight, because it gets so discouraging not seeing that really lean or really well-built muscular physique, but you still have a diet that you hate 5 to 6 days a week without any real results. So that's why I would advise against a lot of the really common cheat meal or cheat day diets, and give this a try, because I think it's really going to work out well for you. And the great thing with this plan is this is the absolute basic one. There's endless modifications you can make to this plan to fit your specific interests, goals, specific timing. If you're looking for some help on modifying this baseline plan that I adhere to, or just honestly diet help in general, drop some comments below. I'll try my best to help you guys reach your goals on your diet and not lose your mind trying to kind of decipher a lot of the diet planning that can be a little daunting when you really dig into a lot of the details. I hope all this information helped you out. I know I wish it was something I was doing 10 years ago, to be honest. So I hope you learned something new today, and I hope it was helpful to you, and we'll see you here next time, guys. Peace out.